Welcome back to the Home and Life Design Summit Season 3, where we're meeting with gifted intuitives and mystics and just beautiful souls having conversations around embodying art and beauty to create more joy. I am your host, Fallon Jordan. I am so excited to have my friend and colleague, Chantal Gagnon here. Thank you so much for being here, Chantal.
Thank you for having me.
And we have a really fun story. You can hear more of how we met on my podcast, Get Validated. But Chantal, just to give you a little bit more information about her, she is a creative, an entrepreneur, an idea generator, and founder of Socolo. And it's Socolo. So it's short for Splash of Color. And then also her intuitive coaching business, which is Chantal G Intuition. And Socolo is an inclusive stationery company in London that makes notebooks for adults with neurodiversity and visual stress, including dyslexia and Erland syndrome, which is just really, really cool. If you've never heard of Erland syndrome before, definitely encourage you to look that up. It's very close and near and dear to Chantal and I's hearts. Chantal is a gifted graphic designer, as you'll see when you go to her website and look at her amazing products. And so very, very gifted, intuitive, and channel. And I'm just so grateful that you embrace all of these beautiful things as a creator, which is why I wanted you here, because you're really embodying art and beauty in like the tactical way, and then also in the creative, intuitive space. So thank you for stepping up and claiming your throne and doing this work.
Well, thank you. That was the most beautiful introduction I could have ever imagined. So thank you so much for that.
You're so welcome.
um, so with the intuitive work that I do, it kind of came to me in a few different ways, but essentially, I took a year-long intuitive course, and I had a feeling I was intuitive a bit before this course, but I didn't quite know how to work with it, or I didn't know a whole lot about it. I had a slightly like scary experience in my very, very early 20s where I would hug people and I could, if they had a bad shoulder, all of a sudden I would get their bad shoulder and they would feel really great. And so I would experience these things that kind of scared me from all of it. And so I really distanced myself from it, but then found myself back on this path. And so I took a year-long intuitive course and started to even develop mediumship skills, as long as with other intuitive gifts. And now I am an intuitive coach, and I absolutely love that. And before that, I went to school for graphic design and fine arts. And when you are creative, and it doesn't matter whether it's music, creative problem solving, business solutions, it really doesn't matter. Like, creativity is such a broad spectrum. There's so much intuition that goes in with that, and I feel like there's these so many creative people out there, but they don't realize how intuitive they are. And when you're doing an art piece, you kind of intuitively know when it's done. You intuitively know that, okay, this corner here needs a little bit more color, or I know purple seems weird for this section, but it just feels right. And you do it, and then you're like, wow, okay, something magical just happened here. Each artwork that we make has this resonance and this frequency. And the more we explore our creativity, the more we are in tune with that. But that's one way to practice it. And when people are harnessing that through art, it's very easy then to convert that frequency that we're able to tap into other areas of our life as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's so amazing. And I would love to hear more about your relationship with beauty. Like, what does beauty mean to you? What has been your journey just with even the term of beauty, and then how you kind of bring that into your life and your businesses?
Yeah. So for me, there's this beauty is a frequency for me. Absolutely. Like, there's no other, I have a hard time describing it in any other way, because um some people have taste, and they have a certain aesthetic or a certain taste that they like. I've never been one of those people. Yeah, there's certain things that I gravitate to a little bit more than others, but there is something about the frequency within something that I'll resonate with. And, you know, there are things where, okay, at certain points in my life, I really resonated with, I don't know, let's say paintings that were really dark, or really beautiful things that were a bit morbid, or, you know, whatever. But I was in that frequency of that at that time.
Yeah.
Right now, I might be like, okay, like that's not so great for me anymore. But it is, for me, it's the for me, beauty is when you're in tune with whatever frequency you're emitting at that time, and you find the thing that aligns with that. And that in itself is absolutely beautiful and magical. And yeah, I can't, like, even visually, like, there's nothing more beautiful than that feeling.
That is so cool. So for someone who might be kind of in that dark phase or trying, you know, they're slowly getting out of it, what is some kind of insight or advice you would give them?
Yeah, so I spent years of my life feeling blah, like, and I can't put another word to it, but it was always blah. I was always slightly unhappy, always felt like there was more to life than what I was experiencing. uh you know, and I think for a lot of people, when they're in that state, I now, of course, we can go further where it's a deeper depression and other things. But I do believe in this emotional scale, and uh to slowly shift in the emotional scale. So Esther and Jerry Hicks have a beautiful emotional scale. I highly suggest people to Google it. You'll find it on Google Images really quick, and see where you're at. And I would say, for someone who's trying to slowly adjust and shift through where they sit on the emotional scale, read Ask and It's Given. It's a great book. And with their exercises, they really organize them in accordance to where you are on the emotional scale. And I would just slowly work through those exercises to get to an emotion that is higher, but one that you also desire. The other thing is, start meditating. I know that, like, a lot of people don't want to do it, and I work with a lot of people who are like, I can't meditate. No one can meditate. Meditation can be as short as one single breath. Just start doing it. And, you know, you might start with one single focused breath a day, and then you might do that 5 times a day, and then you might make that 2 focused breaths a day, multiple times a day. Build yourself up. It doesn't have to be meditating for 20 minutes, an hour each day. I always suggest 15 to 20 minutes, but you really don't have to. That's okay. Just start small, but you got to be comfortable with sitting with yourself. And once you're comfortable with sitting with yourself, all of these things start shifting, and you move out of the blahs and the life so unsatisfactory into this really beautiful place. And just doing these slow, focused breaths will start bringing you on this path of being a bit more mindful, a bit more gratitude, and all of a sudden everything start changing. And it's honestly, it's like magic. I can't, there's no other way of explaining it, but you start really feeling this, like, divine love, and that the universe has your back, and you start seeing things from a much more positive perspective, and your whole mind shift completely changes.
It's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I love your advice of just like start with one focused breath a day.
Yeah, anyone can do that. Like, I work with so many people with ADHD. You can do it, especially smokers. Like, like, a part of the reason why it's so hard to quit smoking is because people get to go outside and have those few deep breaths, right? It may be breaths full of smoke, but they get to have a moment of deep breathing. Go and take your, like, non-smoking smoke break. Go take your breathing break.
Yeah, so important. Like, breathe, get in the sun, get in the grass, like, very simple things, but just there's some structures that are just designed where we're not able to do that. So through your entrepreneur journey and like these decisions that you've made, these non-negotiables in your routine, what are some of those first moments where you realized that you were living from a place of art and beauty, and like you were experiencing joy and that divine connection, and just kind of like feeling that in yourself? Like, what were some of those first moments?
Yeah. You know, I would say, like, okay, I may have not been conscious of it, at the time, but you see kids and you get them to finger paint, and they're really in tune with it. And to them, whatever they do is beautiful. And to us, it might just look like a ton of wet mess on now falling apart paper. but to them it's the most beautiful thing that they ever created, and they just really let themselves go for it. So I think, you know, at that time I was probably really in tune with it, but just didn't know it.
Yeah.
But I would say even I always liked art classes, and I always loved going to museums. And when I went to my first modern art museum, was when I realized, oh, there's something here. Like, I didn't quite know what it was, but the fact that you could have, you know, 8 bricks on the ground and that be called art, and I could feel the frequency of that. And it was like my whole body was like vibrating with the museum. It was such a magical experience. And it was almost like each art piece had like an imprint of the artist's frequency of that time, that they were able to somehow embed it into the artworks. And yeah, it was, yeah, going to my first modern art museum was so magical to me. And then after that, it is like through develop. I always knew I wanted to go into the creative fields. I didn't necessarily know where within that, but when I would take painting classes or drawing classes, you know, staring at a body for 8 hours a day and drawing, and you know, trying to get movement and playing around with shapes and really focusing really hardcore for 8 hours straight, while models lying down and essentially sleeping. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah.
But there is something there that you're so focused for that long that is a form of meditation. I didn't realize that, and I could feel this. It's like I could feel things lining up, and I could feel the frequency of the artwork and of the materials and everything coming together. It is like, even talking about it now, I kind of feel this like, whoo, like it almost feels like I'm like sitting on water. But yeah, there is something magical about it. And drawing, you are focused. And I think as well, again, for people who think sitting and doing traditional meditation is not for them, artwork's a great way to get into it, or anything creative, or a creative hobby, because you're focused, you're not really chatting, you're really paying attention, you're getting this enjoyment, and you achieve this flow state. And when you achieve that flow state, that's really where we all want to be. And it's just magical. Time doesn't exist. Time stretches and shrinks and does all these wild and wonderful things. And it just does feel like the whole universe aligns just for you in that moment.
So beautiful. Thank you for like really painting that picture for us too. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of people listening who are very visual, and just seeing those things kind of come together and like having that beautiful experience is just really wonderful. So thank you.
Oh, thank you.
And I know you happen to be in an actual, like, physically very beautiful place. So I've never been to Croatia. I've only seen pictures. So, you know, being in different places, soaking up the land, like having those experiences through different frequencies, what's something you would share with someone who, like, they really want to go to a beautiful place, they want to have this experience, but maybe they're using money as an excuse? What is something that you could share that would be helpful to them?
So okay. I was actually talking to someone about this last night. So you know, when you go shopping and you might need a pair of shoes. So I'm in Croatia because of a wedding. And I, you know, like let's say I needed a pair of shoes for this wedding, but I knew, you know, a certain shoe was in my budget.
Yeah.
I couldn't really find anything that went with the dress that I was wearing or whatever, or that was practical for the heat, practical for like the stones and all the stairs, and, you know, really trying to find. And then all of a sudden something comes into your life that's like oh, this is it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It might be a little bit out of your budget or whatever, but it seems it really, like, all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is the solution. Right? You will hit those moments. But part of it as well is, when you go to new places and new things, you don't have to go far out of your own neighborhood. You can find a good park. You can find a really beautiful. I mean, for me, when I was living in Canada, it was definitely the Rocky Mountains, and art museums were kind of what I would call my blue zone, and they really filled me up energetically. It's you actively trying to find your blue zone, and I think we all need to find our spot that is as local to us as possible. Then we go a bit further out, so maybe within our state, our province, and then we go further out to like another country, right? And so it's finding those blue zones. And so for me, I'll tell everyone my two not so secret spots in London. But the Natural History Museum has a rock collection.
Ooh.
And I just, whenever I'm in South Kensington, I always, and I'm not there often, but I will, even if I'm like 4 neighborhoods away, I will make an effort to like divert that way, because museums are free in London. So it's a cheap place for me to go. And I'll just go sit there for like 15 minutes and just charge up with like all of the crystals and all of the rocks in that room.
So cool.
Yeah, it feels magical. Another spot is, and it's very close to like London Bridge Station and like all these really good transports. So again, another place that I will take my moment of calm is the Tate Modern Museum has the Rothko room. And so it's this painter that painted with tons of layers of different pigments. And I like his very, for me, I would say it's a traditional Rothko piece where it's layers and layers of paint, but it might just look like one solid color or 2 solid colors. And that's kind of it. But when you sit and look at it, you can see that there's multiple colors within that one color. And you can, and because you use oil paint, you can see all the different pigments underneath, but you have to sit there with it for a bit to see that. And the paintings, when you sit with them, they kind of feel like they breathe with you. And they have one room that has, that's just, it's a smaller room, and it's just covered in these giant Rothko paintings. And it just feels great. Even if it's really busy and noisy in there, that room just always fills up my cup. And so it's, again, finding those places that are really close to you that you're like, okay, if I need that spot, I'll go there. I think also being neurodivergent, I'm very conscious of the fact that I need brain breaks, or that the city can be a bit too much for me sometimes. And so I've always had to find places very close to me that would fill up my cup, and these are beautiful spaces. They are, and like they may not, a lot of people don't like Rothko paintings and don't get it. And, and that's fine. It doesn't have to resonate with everyone, but if it resonates with you, that is all that matters. So it is finding those little places. And I do highly suggest start with close by, a little further away, and then go wild, and you will find your place that's far away, that it will always be your green zone. Sorry, blue zone.
So for anyone who might not know what a blue zone is, would you describe that? Because like your comparison of it is like so perfect and I love it. But just for someone who might not know what that is.
Right. So some person, sorry, I'm terrible with names. Someone wrote a book called Blue Zones, and it's places in the earth that people are exceptionally happy, live an exceptionally long time, and just well-being and health seem to be higher there. And there are, certain places in Japan that are like this. And anyways, I think Costa Rica is another spot that is known. And what happens is a lot of people who move to these places as well, or go to visit, feel this experience of it being a blue zone, and them feeling the vibrancy and joy and the relaxedness and the health of living in that space. But that being said, everyone can have other spaces that give them this. It's just there's certain places on earth that seem to be that for a large population of people. So yeah, that, I guess, did I explain that? Yeah.
Yeah, it's perfect. Cause like to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, like finding my own like inner blue zone, like that like would be just so beautiful, light me up, And like you keep talking about blue, and of course I'm thinking of like throat chakra and like how that was probably involved of like, putting like the right food down your throat, like saying the right things, like living in a place where you can share your voice. Like there's just so much that goes into that. And I'm glad that you said that and we talked about it, because if you've never heard of blue zones before, it's just such a cool thing to start thinking about when, there's a reason that you wanted to go to this place and now you kind of understand maybe why, or, you hear the stereotypes of certain areas like, oh, well, in the south of France, it's da 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 da. And then you find out like why certain people are happier in those climates. So I'm really glad that you said that. It's so cool.
With your inner blue zone, like do you, when you meditate and you go to like your safe space, do you visualize like a landscape, or like do you have certain spaces you go to?
Yeah. And it's so funny. I've been doing some groups and I always tell people to go where you feel called at that moment. because, you know, some people are terrified to do a meditation that leads them deep into the forest. Other people, that's like where they get their most downloads. And then for me, you know, like I would love to be at the ocean one day, be at the lake another day, be in the forest another day, be in Alaska another day. And I think that's where like the infinite possibility, and like, you know, again, just starting with 1 or 2 breaths of meditation a day, and then like bringing in those visualizations. And like you also said at the beginning, like, what's aligned for me right now? Like, what is the inner beauty I want right now? And how can I embody that in a way that is just going to help me, you know, feel better? Maybe you need to reset, maybe you need to regenerate. And, you know, what does that place look like right now? And then just like being super, super focused on what it is. I mean, obviously, I would love to be in a land that has a lot of pink, sparkly trees. Like, that's definitely one of the places that I go in my mind. And again, like just that infinite possibility of whatever you want something to look like.
Absolutely. Like, I think some people don't realize sometimes how fictional the place can be.
Mhm.
I have one place where whenever I go there, it's like I'm in an animation. I'm not even, I look like a drawn version of myself. I don't look like me.
I love it.
And I think, like, thank you for saying that, like, infinite possibilities, because it is true. And I think, you know, my three first most common safe spaces for me was like a very foresty green moss, like tons of moss everywhere, type place, very dense. My other safe zone that I used to always go to was, it was just like, it was definitely like an Arctic thing where it was tons of ice. And the ice was kind of like a bit wet on top though. So it was kind of like, I love that. It was very textural. And if I looked, you know, further out, it was almost as if I was on, it was almost as if I was floating on this like really large iceberg. And then if I looked over the edges, it would be like this really dark sea that was basically black and you couldn't really see very far. And that was really comforting to me. But yeah, then I have these like weird animation type places, or where I'll be just floating in water and there's not a whole lot there, but I just know that I'm floating in water and I can see reflections of stars. And that's kind of about it. It's in a galaxy of it's essentially like a star galaxy of water. Like, but yeah, it's some people that I work with seem to get more very animated type, and to them it's very, like, they describe it very much like a Disney movie. It doesn't have to be like photorealistic or, yeah.
I love that. Well, speaking of beautiful meditations, would you like to share what your free gift is?
Yes, of course. So I, as I was talking about earlier, with people, I work with a lot of people who sometimes struggle with meditating. And so I created a meditation where you get to experience a lot of different meditations in one. It's a recording, so I'm giving that to everyone. It was very much designed for busy parents. You can hop in and hop off as much as you want throughout the video. You get to try a bunch of different things, but it is very good for people who maybe haven't meditated ever before. And I keep on changing up the practice throughout the meditation so that you, one, get to experience things, but also you stay focused and engaged throughout.
That is so beautiful and so generous. And y'all can claim that by just clicking the link below. And that's what's so beautiful about everybody in this summit, is everyone's gifts are so different and for just like all different types of people. And I know for me, like depending on my mood, like sometimes I can like get really deep into something and like not in a time when I should be, like when I'm driving. So I love that it's practical. It's for busy parents. Again, you guys can claim that by clicking the link below. That is so generous. Thank you so much, Chantal.
Oh, no, thank you for having me. And thank you everyone for taking time to listen.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any closing remarks regarding embodying art and beauty to create more joy from your beautiful life experience as a gifted healer?
Yeah, give yourself the gift of taking time to be creative and exploring all aspects of your creativity without judgment. And that's the hardest bit. And the more you allow yourself to practice being creative in all aspects of your life, the more you allow happy accidents to happen, the more you get in tune with it, the less judgmental you are of yourself, the more you see that it's okay. Like it's okay that the ink blob there. It's okay. So that would be my best tip, is to please just start. Whatever you have time for, just start and give yourself that gift.
That is so beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Thank you everyone for listening. I will see you all in the next conversation, but do not forget to glean your amazing meditation from Chantal with a link below. And we're just sending everyone so much love. Bye for now.
Bye.